So friends, today we are going to be talking about an illustrious ruler of Mewar. If you are aware of, Mewar is the region where today's Udaipur region has been geographically known as the Mewar region. And I'm going to be talking about Maharana Kumbha, a very illustrious ruler of Mewar. We all know a lot about Maharana Pratap, about Saga, but very less talked about Kumbha. So today we will look into the life and the times of Kumbha and see how great he was. And so I will start with a little background of Mewar, taking you back to Alauddin Khilji's period. When Alauddin invaded Mewar and took over, captured Mewar, he appointed his son over Mewar as the administrator and renamed Chittor as Khizrabad. Thereafter, for a few years, the rule of the Muslims was there, but then soon the Sisoda village chief, whose name was Hamir, he rose to prominence, and from here the fortunes of Mewar again become very prominent, or the fortunes of Mewar rise, and hence the dynasty that followed thereafter from Hamir is known as the Sisodia dynasty. This dynasty continued to rule and continues to rule even till today. And so after Hamir, his son Kshetra Singh becomes the ruler. After Kshetra Singh, then we have Lakshya Singh become the ruler, whom we know in history as Maharana Lakha, who married Hansa Bai of Marwar, and they already had a son whose name was Chunda. But when Maharana Lakha married Hansa Bai, there was a very decided clause that the son born from this marriage will be crowned as the next king. Bhishma Pitamaha Pratigya, it is in the same way in the annals of Mewar. We have Chunda, who never became a ruler though, and he abdicated his position of heir apparent for the son of Lakha, whose name was Mokal. So for the sake of Mokal, Chunda abdicated his throne, and he is known in the history of Mewar as the Bhishma Pitamaha of Mewar. Taking up from here, this Mokal had one son, and this son of his was Kumbha. And today we are going to be talking about Maharana Kumbha. Maharana Kumbha was a very illustrious ruler, and when he becomes the ruler, the fortunes of the Mewar Sisodia dynasty had waned for a while, because we see that Mokal was not a very strong ruler, and at his times the neighboring territories tried to become independent. Consequently, Mewar had to face a lot of challenge. So when Kumbha becomes the ruler, he actually takes up the throne after his father Mokal was murdered by his two step chachas, Chacha and Mera. They murder Mokal, and thereafter Kumbha becomes the ruler. So when Kumbha becomes the ruler, one of the prime target of his, or one of the prime ambition of his, is to punish the murderers of his father. However, he takes over and he rules Mewar from 1433 until 1468. Now this period of Kumbha is considered to be one of the finest period in the history of Mewar of this period, of this century. We have Maharana Kumbha, who was able to establish the fortunes of Mewar again. He was able to conquer many territories that were trying to get free, and one of the very important challenges that Kumbha faced were from two states, that were the Muslim states of Malwa and that of Gujarat. Both of these were Muslim states, and both of them were on the borders of Mewar, and hence Kumbha had to face invasion from either Malwa or from Gujarat. And then the third was Nagaur, again which was a Muslim principality. And so these three Muslim powers off and on were a big challenge for Kumbha. Thereafter, we also see that he was able to capture many territories around this place, like Nagaur, Sarangapur, Gagaron, and then we have Ajay Meru, Mandor, Mandalgarh, Bundi, and Abu. These were the territories that he was able to win over and extend the boundaries of Mewar and make it very strong. We also see that in 1437, Kumbha was able to defeat the ruler of Malwa, whose name was Mahmud Khalji. First, as we call him. And to commemorate this victory of Kumbha over Malwa, we see that he built a very important building which we know as Kirti Stambh in the fort of Chittor. So Kirti Stambh is a commemorative building which marks the conquest of Mewar over Malwa. We also see that in 1443, again the ruler of Malwa tries to capture Mewar and leads an attack, but it was foiled by Kumbha. We also see that the ruler of Gujarat attacks Mewar on the pretext of the war of succession happening in Nagaur, and Kumbha was able to successfully defeat him. There's also a time when the ruler of Malwa as well as the ruler of Gujarat, they combined together and they tried to give a, they planned to actually invade Mewar, but the diplomatic skills of Kumbha was such that he was able to win over one party to his side and break the coalition, and thereafter the challenge of the invasion of these Muslim states on Mewar was stemmed for a while. We see that he was able to defeat Gujarat, and we also see that in the year 1457-58, when I talked about the combined attack, he was able to foil that in the year 1457-58. Now, apart from these political victories, we also see that Kumbha emerges as a man of pen. So often it is quoted for him that Kumbha was a man of sword and he was a man of pen as well. So we look into the literary activities and the patronage that he provided to the scholars, to the learned teachers of that time. Let us look at his own life, and we see that first of all, let's look at his patronage on architecture and art. He's a great patron of art and architecture, and it is believed that out of the 84 forts that Mewar had, 32 were built by him, or rather were renovated also. A few were built, a few were renovated. Many forts were built by him for securing the borders and the boundaries of Mewar. The very, very important one is the Kumbhalgarh fort. It's a very, very beautiful fort, perched fort, built in the memory of Kumbha's wife, whose name was Kumbhal Devi. That's how the fort got its name. Apart from the Kumbhalgarh fort, we get to know that he built the Basanti fort to secure the region of Sirohi from the side of Sirohi for Mewar. He was also able to build Machan fort. He was able to build the Bairat fort, and to control the mares, he was also able to build the Bairat near Kolan and the Badnor region. He was able to build the Machan fort to control the mares, and then he was also able to build fort in the Bhomat area to control the Bhils. So in this way, he was able to strategically make Mewar very strong from all the sides. And then we also see that he renovated many forts. For example, the Achalgarh fort, it was actually a fort of the Parmars who ruled over this region. He was able to renovate it and make it very strong. So it may have provided a very strategic location for Mewar to secure its boundaries from all the sides. We also see, now let's talk about a little bit about Kumbhalgarh fort. Kumbhalgarh is built on the Aravalli mountains on the western side of the Aravalli range, and this is very important from the military and from the residential point of view, as well as a wonderful architectural marvel. Its prachirs are considered second best to the Great Wall of China. It is a very, very strong prachir that it has. And we see that about 50,000 people can reside in this fort at a time. So to provide for the water, for the residents, for the granary, it had many farms, it had many lands, it had many buildings, it had many temples inside. It's a very, very huge fort. And Kumbha also built a fort within the fort. So there is a fort which is known as the Katargarh fort, which is a smaller fort inside the Kumbhalgarh fort, and this is the place where Kumbha resided. And if you actually happen to go to Kumbhalgarh, you will see that it's a kind of a secured mechanism in times of attack. If there was an attack, Kumbha would go and he would be inside this fort, which is actually a very, very simple building, and it exhibits the simple lifestyle of Maharana Kumbha. But again, this fort provided additional security against the attack in the medieval times. Apart from this, I've already talked about the Kirti Stambh that he built in the Chittorgarh fort to commemorate the victory of his against Mahmud Khalji I of Mewar. Apart from that, he also built many temples inside the fort, so you will find Kumbhal Sham temples in the forts that were built by him. We also have Kumbhal Sham temple and the Shangar Gauri temple in the Chittorgarh fort. Then there is Meera temple, which is in Eklingi. He also built the Ranakpur temples, which are very much renowned for their beauty and are an architectural marvel even till today. Now, apart from giving patronage to art and architecture, Kumbha also emerges as a patron of literature, and in fact he himself was a literary scholar, as we get to know that he was very well versed in many languages. He knew many, he had read the Vedas, the Smriti, the Puranas, and we also get to know that the Vyakaran literature, Rajniti, Sahitya, all of these texts, Mimansas, were all very well read by him. And we also see that he emerges as a great musician. And fondly he has been referred by the historians as Abhinav Bharatacharya. And he's also credited with the writing of 4 dramas. We do not have their names though, but he wrote 4 dramas, and he has been credited with writing or composing 3 texts on music. Let's have their names here: Sangeet Raj, Sangeet Mimansa, Sangeet Raj, Sangeet Mimansa, and the third is Rasik Priya. Now, Rasik Priya, as we know, is a commentary on Geet Govind that has been by him. He also wrote another commentary which is known as Sudha Prabandh. Another text ascribed to him is Kamraj Ratisar. As I said, he is also credited with 4 dramas. We do not have the names of those dramas, but the source for getting all of this information are the various inscriptions that we found of his times. Kumbhalgarh Prashasti is a very, very fine example, which is a very, very important source of his. And we also know that Rasik Priya in itself gives us a lot of information about the various titles, the conquests, the patronage provided by him, and his other achievements. We also have the Kumbhalgarh Prashasti and Ekling Mahatmya, which is again a very important text which throws light on the period of Maharana Kumbha. Apart from these personal skills and achievements of Kumbha, we can also see that he patronized many scholars in his court. Many scholars were brought. For example, Mandan. Now, Mandan was got by him from Gujarat, and he was a very famous architect of that time, and he served his master very loyally, and many texts were written by him, and many buildings, the number of buildings that we see that were built during his period were all under the supervision of Mandan. So let's look at the scholars patronized by him. Mandan is the foremost, and many texts are attributed to him, like Devamurti Prakaran, we have Prasad Mandan, then there is Raj Vallabh, then there is Roop Mandan, Vastu Mandan. These are all the texts that are on architecture which are written by Mandan. Mandan's son Govind also was an important part of the court of Kumbha, and he wrote texts like Udhar Dhorani, Kalanidhi, and Dwar Deepika. These are the 3 texts that are attributed to Govind, who is the son of Mandan. We also see that the Kirti Stambh Prashasti, as I told you that the Kirti Stambh was built by him to commemorate his victory over Mahmud Khalji, the ruler of Malwa. And so there is a prashasti. Always look out for that inscription that we see, which is always placed near the, the entrance of that building. So there is a Kirti Samprashasti, and this prashasti was composed and was put forward by, it was composed by 3 people, Kavi, Atri and Mahesh. And it is a laudatory praise. It has all the important information about Kumbha, and if you want to find out more about his achievements, his conquests, his titles, his patronage, we will all find it there. We also have a very important text called Ekling Mahatmya, and its author Kanaha Vyas was patronized by Kumbha. He was a part of the court of Kumbha. And apart from that, you can also see that with the religious tolerance, there were many Jain scholars in his court. Prominent amongst them were Som Sundar, Jayachandra Suri and Somdev. So these were the Jain scholars that were a part of Kumbha's court. Apart from that, Kumbha took many titles, and these titles, as I said, can be derived from the various inscriptions and the texts that were composed at that time. Titles like Maharaja Dhiraj, Maharana. I want to inform everyone that the rulers of Mewar have the title of Maharana and not Maharaja. So every time a Maharana title is used, you must reach the conclusion that it must be the ruler of Mewar. So Maharana. Then we have Rai Rayan and Rano Raso, Rajguru, Hal Guru, and then Dan Guru, and then Param Guru, Chhap Guru. Now the Guru means very proficient. So Hal Guru, Chhap Guru, master of guerrilla tactic of warfare. Hal Guru, master of many forts. Raj Guru, master of politics. And then we have Param Guru, the master of masters. These are all the titles taken by him. Apart from that, some inscriptions tell us that he took up the title of Narpati, Ashwapati, Ganapati, which throw light on the fact that he may have had a very, very big infantry, a very, very big cavalry, etc. So these are all the achievements which are reflected in the titles of Kumbha. So this period of Kumbha has been considered the most illustrious period in the history of Mewar, and I hope that through all of this information that you have got today, you will be able to have a very good idea about the ruler of Mewar and how illustrious he was. And then unfortunately, Kumbha, he had a long period of time and his son could not wait to see him die, and so his son Udaykaran, who's known in history as Uda, he is supposed to have murdered his father in the year 1468. So Kumbha was murdered in 1468 by his own son Uda, and with that the era or the period of Kumbha comes to an end. However, there is just about a ruler or so, there's about 100-year difference between that of Kumbha and that of Sanga, and Sanga happened to be 2 generations later than Kumbha. So after the murder of Kumbha by Uda, he was then removed, and Uda's other brother, his son actually, not the brother, son, Raimal, he becomes the next ruler. Uda and Raimal were brothers, sorry. So Uda and Raimal, so Uda is removed, and then Raimal comes up to be the next ruler. And Raimal had 3 sons. One was Jaimal, the other was Prithviraj, and the third was Sangram Singh. And it is Sangram Singh who then inherits the throne after Raimal, and we know Sangram Singh in the history as Maharana Sanga. So that's the kind of connection that we have of Kumbha and Sanga. And with that, we come to the end of this talk. I hope that this lecture today has enriched you with the history of Mewar and has made you know about the very, very important ruler of Mewar, Maharana Sanga. Thank you.